Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into one of the very first things you'll ever need to say in Spanish, how to talk about your age. But here's a fun fact. What if I told you the most common, most logical way to say, I am 25 years old is actually completely wrong? Yep, there's a little trap that almost every English speaker falls into, and we're going to make sure you sidestep it completely. Let's get into it.
So, let's just try it. How would you say this sentence right here? If your first thought was to use soy or estoy, the Spanish verbs for I am, that makes perfect sense. It's totally logical. But Spanish has a little surprise for us here. It's a common first step, but there is a much better and more importantly correct way.
And here it is. I call this the Spanish age trap. As you can see, that direct translation, soy 25 años, gets a big red X. It's wrong. The right way to say it is tengo 25 años. Honestly, this is probably the #1 mistake English speakers make. But hey, that's why we're here. Stick with me, and I promise you won't be making it again.
So, what's going on here? Why the big difference? Well, it all comes down to a really cool shift in thinking. See, in English, we treat age as a state of being. It's part of who we are. But in Spanish, you have to flip that switch in your brain. Age isn't something you are, it's something you have. Think of it like this. You possess your years. You collect them, kind of like souvenirs from your life.
And that little shift in thinking leads us to the single most important rule for today. When you talk about age in Spanish, just forget about the verb to be. The only verb you need to worry about is tener, which means to have. This is the golden rule. If you remember one thing, make it this.
And here's the rule, plain and simple. The text just backs up what we said. In Spanish, we use the verb tener for age. And the example says it all. Tengo 16 años. Literally, I have 16 years. Simple as that.
Okay, so to build this skill, you basically need two tools in your toolkit. We're going to start with the most critical one, our foundation, the verb tener. Let's take a closer look at it.
Now, you'll hear that tener is an irregular verb. Don't let that word scare you off. It just means it plays by its own rules sometimes. All you need to know for now are two little quirks. In the I form, it ends in go, and in some other forms, the middle of the word changes a bit. It sounds more complicated than it is, I promise. Let's see it in action.
And here we go. For I, or yo, it becomes tengo. See that go on the end? That's our go verb. Simple. Then, for the informal you, tú, it's tienes. And for he, she, or the formal you, that's él, ella, usted, it's tiene. See how the E in the middle of tener changed to an IE in those two? That's the whole stem change trick. That's it. These three forms will get you through most conversations.
Awesome, you've got your verb. Tool number 2 is, you guessed it, the numbers. But relax, you do not need to sit down and memorize 100 new words right now. All you really need are 3 super simple patterns, and you'll be able to say pretty much any age you want.
Okay, group 1 is 0 to 15. These guys are the unique ones. They don't really follow a pattern, so you just kind of have to get to know them. We have DAs for 10, once for 11, das for 12, all the way up to quince for 15. Think of them as the building blocks for everything else.
Now for our first real pattern. This one covers all the numbers from 16 up to 29. The trick here is that you're just taking 2 words and squishing them into one. For example, 16 is basically 10 and 6, or 10 y 6. That gets fused together into one word, 16. Same thing happens for the 20s. 20 and 8, or 28, becomes a single word, 28. See the pattern? And now for the best part, the easiest pattern of all. For any number from 31 up to 99, it's a simple 3-word formula. It's so easy. First, you pick the decade, like 30 for 30. Second, you add the word y, which just means and. And third, you add the single digit. So 31 is literally 30 and 1. 31. This works every single time.
Okay, you did it. You've got your 2 tools, the verb tener and the number patterns. Now it's time for the fun part. Let's put them together and have an actual conversation.
So this is the question you're going to hear a lot. ¿Cuántos años tienes? And notice, it's not asking how old are you. It's literally asking how many years do you have. ¿Cuántos means how many, años means years, and there it is, tienes, you have. It all comes back to having those years. And the answer is even simpler. It's a 3-part recipe. You start with I have, which is tengo. Then you plug in your number, and you finish with the word for years, años,
That's the whole formula.
Let's look at a real example. If someone asks you and you're 33, you'd say, Tengo 33 años. See how it works? Tengo for I have, and then our easy three-word pattern for 33, 33. It all just clicks together perfectly.
You've learned the rules, you've seen the tools. Now let's do a super quick practice round just to lock it all in. I'm going to ask the question, and I want you to try and build the answer in your head. Ready? Let's go.
All right, first one. ¿Cuántos años tiene ella? So how would you say she is 19? Take a second. Think about the right form of tener for she and what that number 19 looks like.
And the answer is, ella tiene 19 años. Perfect. We use tiene because it means she has, and 19 is that one-word pattern for 19. Nice work.
Okay, next up. ¿Cuántos años tiene él? He is 28. Which number pattern are we using for 28?
The answer is, él tiene 28 años. Once again, we're using tiene for he has, and 28 is that fused single-word number for 28. You're getting this. Last one. This time, we're being a little more formal. ¿Cuántos años tiene usted? So how do you say that this person is 41 if you're speaking to them formally? And here it is, usted tiene 41 años. So the verb for the formal you is also tiene. Easy. And for the number, you can see our awesome three-part formula in action. The decade, 40, the word and the number 1, uno. Fantastic job.
And just like that, you've completely beaten the Spanish age trap. You're not going to fall for it ever again. You now have the essential tools, the verb and the numbers to ask someone their age and to give your own, correctly and with confidence. So the only real question left is, what's the first conversation you're going to have with your new skill? Thanks so much for joining me.